Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, or if it's your very first time here, welcome on in. I am back, of course, with another monthly plan with me, and this one has coziness vibes turned all the way up as high as it could possibly go, even though we're still in the summertime. It just so happened to be a super gloomy day when I was filming this video, which was perfect because I was able to light a candle and wear a sweatshirt. Unfortunately, the sun does eventually make an appearance about halfway through this video, so we'll just have to stick to the cozy vibes only being within the pages of this bullet journal, which tends to be the case anyways because more often than not it is sunny with a high chance of it being at least 80 degrees. Okay, now that I've talked about the weather for at least a minute, we're gonna get into the rest of this setup. In all honesty, it is quite literally a miracle that I was able to get this video out with how busy my August has been. I have been preparing for Rose City Comic Con because I will have a booth at their Artist Alley, which is very exciting. This is my first Artist Alley experience, which will be in exactly a week from today. So basically, preparing for this event has essentially been my life for roughly about a month and a half. Getting into the monthly theme, however, I really wanted something that I was super comfortable with doing, something relatively mindless because my brain is already super overwhelmed with a whole bunch of things, so I didn't really want a theme that was too much out of my comfort zone or too complex, even though I always end up going the extra mile anyways because I just can't stop myself from doing that. As you will see when we get into like the habit and the mood tracker, I definitely could have chosen to do something a little bit more simplistic, but that's just not my style and I just can't help it. Also, I've been just on such a roll with my mood trackers this entire year, and this month is no exception, but we will get to that in just a short while. But for now, of course, we are going to start off with the cover page, and if it wasn't already, relatively clear, I am doing kind of like a cozy library bookshop, just books. It's just a books theme. That's really all it is. Nothing super special or intricate. Although honestly, my original idea was to kind of do like a haunted library or bookshop situation. But again, kind of just wanted to keep it simple. At least this is what I consider simple. This is probably not what a majority of people think is simple, but for me, this is very tame. I also knew that I had the perfect washi tape that would go along with this theme, which was actually kindly sent to me by Anna from Journal Away and her shop, which I will make sure to link in the description. But it's this beautiful bookshelf washi tape, which I showed a close-up of earlier. And I used that washi tape literally throughout. It was peak vibes for this setup. So naturally, because this monthly theme revolves around all things books, I knew that I wanted to include some sort of page dedicated to book reviews or just the books that I've been reading in general. But I wanted to do something a little bit different than like drawing a bookshelf, which is what I normally tend to gravitate towards. So I decided that this would be a perfect opportunity to use a new product that I actually will be debuting at Comic-Con, and I will eventually be adding it to my shop once I come back from Portland. So currently in my shop I sell like one of those old school library cards that you would find in books, and that you could just use to track the book you read and then include the star rating that you would give the book. But I kind of wanted to take it a step much further to include a whole bunch of things. So the book recipe card was born. This is obviously inspired by the traditional recipe cards that you would find in kitchens, but solely dedicated to books. I try to include as many details of a book review as possible within the given space. I also included a spice rating for all of my dark romance girlies out there. I am a huge dark romance reader, so this was honestly a no-brainer for me to include. As I mentioned, this will probably be in my shop in about a month or so, maybe less. It kind of all depends on how Comic-Con goes for me. But I printed a whole bunch of them out and then inserted them into this craft envelope. And I am essentially going to be using these recipe cards not necessarily for books that I only read in September, but any books that I kind of want to use these recipe cards for the remainder of the year. So if I read a really good book in, let's say, November, I can just come back to September and fill out a recipe card for that book. I'm really not trying to constrain myself to only use this for books in September, because I have no idea if I am going to read in September. And that is just the beauty of journaling, is that you can just use these pages however you want. And I am really looking forward to filling out those cards and adding a new product to the Scribbles family. So besides the washi tape that I mentioned earlier, I thought this monthly setup would be the perfect opportunity to test out a brand new fountain pen that was kindly sent to me from Ellington Pens. So thank you so much to them. I will make sure to leave this pen also linked in the description, but needless to say, I did not have learning to use fountain pens on my bucket list for 2024, but after receiving a few pens this year, I suddenly have the desire to learn how to properly use a fountain pen. There are a ton of creators I follow, like Serica from Serica Studio and Jasmine from Journal with Jazz, who religiously use fountain pens, and I think it's time for me to level up my writing game. Obviously, I have Holy Grail pens that I will always use, but for those times when I want to be a little bit fancier, I want to just get more comfortable with using a fountain pen. I don't know if there's like a special technique that I would need to use or something, like, you know, I don't even know if how I was using it today was the quote-unquote proper way to use it. I think it's more so just me wanting to get more comfortable with writing with a fountain pen, and if I've learned anything from filming this setup, that is definitely a goal of mine. If not for 2024, then definitely for 2025. Alrighty, moving on to the next set of pages. These will be my habit and mood trackers. I, again, could have done something a lot more chill, a lot more simple, but that's just not the name of the game on this channel. and it hasn't been that way since 2019 for me. So surely not going to stop now. So if you watched my August setup, then these little calendars would look very familiar. I have not had the time to place an order from Justice Shop to reorder my usual calendars that I use for my habit trackers, so I've just been using these little guys that I printed from some cardstock that I of course have at home. But my idea was to essentially turn my habit tracker calendars into little tiny books. Now granted, I know there aren't that many books that look this way. These are definitely giving traveler's notebook vibes as opposed to like actual books, but let's just say that these are magical, very special, very cutesy, very unique looking books that you could only find in very special places. So I took all of the calendars, folded them in half, and then I went in and just kind of did a little bookish cover design on all of them. I don't know why, if it was the cardstock or if it was this pen not agreeing with this material. I have absolutely no idea, but it was a struggle to draw these covers. Like, the lines were so patchy and just it was not a pleasant experience, but I was not going to reprint these and, you know, waste paper or do anything like that, so I just went over it a few times, but it was not a fun process. This was actually the first time where my coveted Write-Tech Upgel pen did not perform how I would have liked it to, or how it normally does, so I'm just gonna blame the paper. Yep, that sounds good. Unfortunately, I did not realize this till later, but I managed to draw one of the covers on the wrong side, which meant that the text on the inside was technically upside down, but I do eventually go back and fix that. Even though these little books were a bit of a pain in the butt to create, I honestly think they look very cute and exactly what I wanted for my habit tracker page. After I finished pasting in all of these very magical books, I was debating on whether to use some kind of sticker to prevent them from being super floppy and 3D like, but I don't know, I think I prefer them this way. Even though I guess they're more at risk for getting squished, but I mean, I don't throw my journal across the room, so I think they'll be okay. Lastly, I am just going in with my usual coffee staining equipment to add a few extra little details and some distressing to these very special books. And this page is pretty much all done. Alrighty friends, it is time to work on the mood tracker for this month, and as I mentioned earlier in this video, I have been on such a roll with my mood trackers for basically this entire year, and this month is no different. I knew that I wanted to use some kind of TBR cart or like book trolley situation for my mood tracker. I just wasn't entirely sure how I was going to specifically track the moods themselves, but oh my god, I absolutely love how this turned out. It is better than I expected, and it was so much fun. So essentially what I did, which is very reminiscent of how I created August's mood tracker, but I decided to draw this cart in Procreate, and then I printed it out on the very same cardstock that I used for the habit tracker calendars. And then I used my X-Acto knife to cut out the very intricate shapes of this cart. So basically my vision was that I was going to glue down the very bottom parts of each of the shelves of the cart, so that way I can insert little pieces of paper within those shelves to make it look like there are books sitting in the shelves. And then each of those books correspond to every day in September. To create the little books, I used the same notepad that I tend to use for a majority of these projects. This notepad is from Archer & Olive, and I don't think it has been restocked yet, but you can definitely use any kind of paper you have lying around. But of course, because this is on a black page, I did want there to be as much contrast as possible, so I cut out a rectangle from the craft paper and the white dotted paper. And then I spent about 10 minutes just cutting out a bunch of little tiny rectangles. After I cut them out, I numbered them 1 through 30, and that was pretty much it for them. I did not want to draw any intricate book design on the side because you realistically wouldn't see it anyways. It's only meant for you to see the number. And I think it turned out really cool, which you will see here shortly. Right now I'm just measuring out the little rectangles just to make sure that I cut it to the correct size, and you can kind of see what I'm envisioning now for how I wanted this mood tracker to look. So as I mentioned earlier, there are of course a number of ways that I could have gone about actually creating the mood tracker itself, whether to use like different colors or different designs on the books themselves, but I just felt like the easiest and most time efficient way would essentially be to use every shelf as its own mood in itself. So for example, let's say on the 6th of September I am feeling very happy, then I will grab the rectangle with the number 6 labeled on it and just insert it into that top happy shelf, and so on and so forth. More than likely the middle content shelf will be the one that is filled the most with books, because that tends to be my usual mood throughout the month anyway. Later on, I do actually decide to take it even a step further and add a star rating to each of the shelves, which is of course reminiscent of, you know, whenever you rate books that you read. So the first top shelf is 5 stars, the middle shelf is 4 stars, and the last shelf is 3 stars. I definitely see myself recreating this spread more than likely for my reading journal. I think it'd be a really cool idea to create 2 different carts for like an end of the year spread. So one cart would be my star ratings, and then one cart would be my spice ratings. And then I would just make it a little bit bigger to include, you know, like 5 shelves for 1 through 5 stars, 1 through 5 chili peppers. I think that'd be a really cool idea. More than likely, I'm going to do that for my end of the year wrap up for my reading journal. So because I didn't exactly leave much room to store the little rectangles while the month progresses, I just grabbed one of the little vellum envelopes that I've used in previous spreads and then inserted that little envelope into the larger craft envelope on, you know, the first page of this setup with all of the book recipe cards. I was trying to think of a creative way that I could attach this envelope to this page specifically, but it was just going to be too cluttered, and I kind of wanted the cart to be the star of the show. Right now, I'm just testing out the little rectangles within the shelves just to see how it looks, and then also leaving them there for photos just so people can kind of get a better idea of, you know, what I'm the vibes that are going on that page. And that is basically it for my habit and mood trackers for September. I am obsessed with this duo. I think they look absolutely amazing together, and I am very much looking forward to filling them in. Alrighty, moving on to the final spread for this monthly setup. These 2 pages are essentially going to create one giant favorites page. I wanted plenty of room to include favorite moments from Comic-Con or just overall favorite moments from the month of September. Overall, there's really nothing super spectacular about these few pages. I kind of just added a few of my usual ephemera details with photos and washi tape and stickers, and that is pretty much it for this singular spread. Again, it's really not going to look all that interesting until it's filled with hopefully a bunch of amazing moments from this month. Alrighty friends, it is time, of course, for the final flip through of my September plan with me, inspired by all things cozy books, cozy reading. I really hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on these pages. I am so excited to fill out my mood tracker TBR cart situation, and also those book recipe cards. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to kind of fill those in as well for the books that I read for the remainder of 2024. If you're at all interested in getting access to that recipe card earlier than a month, I will be sharing the file with all of my Patreon members, so make sure to check out the link to my Patreon if you are interested in joining the Scribbles fam over there. Also, if you are in the Portland area or just so happen to be attending Rose City Comic Con, I will be in the Artist Alley, booth C24. So feel free to come by, say hi, grab some cozy stationery. I have a ton of new products that I will be debuting. I am now going to order a pumpkin spice latte and enjoy the rest of this very gloomy morning. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!